here loading the last of the HH-60 Blackhawks.
100.
Yeah, we're all exposed.
Yeah, we're requesting fuel.
This is Michael Anthony Adams, and when I first moved to California and found out one of the largest Air Force bases west of the Mississippi was right here in our own backyard, I knew I had to find out what went on there. And as I started talking to the airmen here, I found out that Travis Air Force Base has a major global reach. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to take you inside Travis Air Force Base for a rare glimpse at the massive planes that are here on the flight line. Up first is North Korea, and what this C-5 here does to support that mission. Tensions between the US and North Korea have continued to heat up. In September, the DPRK tested a hydrogen bomb and launched a missile over the north of Japan. On November 29th, the country fired yet another intercontinental ballistic missile that, according to Secretary of Defense James Mattis, went higher, frankly, than any previous shot they have taken. President Trump said his administration would handle the situation, and while his specific plans for the Korean Peninsula remain unclear, the airmen at Travis Air Force Base stand ready to assist any way they can.
North Korea pledging to fire missiles into the waters near Guam in mid-August, falling on Liberation Day in Korea.
In August, tensions between the US and North Korea ratcheted up after threats were exchanged by both countries' leaders.
He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before. What will happen in North Korea?
As both President Trump and North Korea's Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un went tit for tat on what one would do if the other attacked, the U.S. military was continuing to flex its might in the Pacific, deploying 6 B-1 bombers and 350 airmen to Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. 6,000 miles away at Travis Air Force Base, pilots, flight engineers, loadmasters, and maintenance crews were helping to get those bombers and airmen where they needed to go, on time and ready to fight.
We're bringing in the ground equipment for those B-1 bombers who are actually keeping us safe by having that constant presence in the Pacific, bringing their bomb loaders, bringing their ground equipment, bringing troops for them.
To put into perspective just how big the thing is, the Wright brothers' first flight was shorter in length than the cargo floor of the C-5, which can hold, say, 6 Greyhound buses or 100 Volkswagen Beetles.
Whatever needs to get delivered, I like to say that I can do that and that I'm willing to do that. This stuff just doesn't, turn up one day. It's us that's taking it there. So my role is to make sure that it gets there safely and on time.
Senior Airman Watson is a loadmaster on the C-5 and probably a Tetris master too. It's his job to make sure all cargo, whether it's a NASA weather satellite or a dozen bomb lift trucks bound for Guam, is loaded, secured, and escorted safely anywhere in the world.
It can seem scary, but we have all the necessary training to accomplish what we do.
The bombers and airmen taken to Guam by one of Travis's 18 C-5 aircrafts at the end of July were part of U.S. Pacific Command's continuous bomber presence mission, which has already conducted 11 practice runs with the B-1 in a plan to preemptively strike North Korean missile sites if the situation escalates, military officials recently told NBC News.
Bringing supplies out there to that base or units out there, it's something we always do, so we're just going about business as normal.
Sergeant Savard, a flight engineer on the C-5, says while things in the Pacific may seem like they're heating up, Travis's C-5s have been making regular trips to Guam for years, and that recent missions are just another example of the base's commitment to maintaining America's global reach.
Doing the missions of moving units to places like Guam is very important. They have to get a whole base basically somewhere to operate. They have all their support equipment, so it's not just the planes that are over there. They have maintenance personnel that need tools and the support equipment, supplies.
This is the ballistic missile fired over Japanese airspace Tuesday.
Despite Sergeant Savard's hope that things stay calm on the peninsula, North Korean state media said the country's most recent missile test was a meaningful prelude to containing Guam. Following the launch, President Trump tweeted that talking to North Korea is not the answer, leaving many to wonder what his plans will be moving forward. Whether or not the situation continues to escalate between the two countries, the airmen and women at Travis are ready.
It's the United States military, so we try to stay on top of being ready at all times. So hopefully nothing changes. We just keep up that tempo.
So I'm sitting in the boom operator's nest of the KC-10. It's probably not unlike a plane you've flown on before, except this plane carries 6 tanks with 356,000 pounds of fuel. While the primary mission of the KC-10 is mid-air refueling, this plane can also hold up to 75 passengers and 170,000 pounds of cargo. In this next story, you'll see this plane refuel a C-17 mid-air.
Here's the roll call. Okay, Toga 79, Dino Hudson. Nate Burtman. Scott Winker. Johnny Benson. Andrew, is it Heaton or Hedden? Yes, sir. Heaton. Okay, so new plan. Toga 80, the Orca jet is going to lead our Toga 3 ship out. So bus at 8:15. All right, thanks guys.
KC-10 is, in my opinion, the most versatile of the airplanes here at Travis. Its main mission is air refueling. It really is a very important thing if we have gas in the air to keep it in the air, so it's available for those combat operators, those fighter jets and bombers, because every time they take off and land, they're in a vulnerable position to engage possible enemy combatants.
Earlier this year, the airmen and women of the 79th Air Refueling Squadron invited me to tag along on one of their training missions to get a first-hand look at the KC-10 in action.
The KC-10 is a linchpin, and refueling is a force enabler that without refueling the United States wouldn't be able to do what it does. As Americans, we're used to the idea of airplanes going halfway around the world and to be able to do whatever the Commander-in-Chief orders. Other nations don't have that ability, and that ability is in large part due to the fact we have air refueling.
Think of it as a flying gas station, traveling 500 miles per hour, a mile above the Earth's surface, gassing up an array of U.S. and Allied aircraft mid-flight. The KC-10 can carry more than 356,000 pounds of fuel and can refuel multiple planes in the same mission.
The join-up process, from my perspective, is incredibly simple. They just stop in front of my window, I fly the boom over, and that part doesn't even require thinking. I take an occasional glance at my gauge to make sure I'm nowhere near where one of the limits are, and then I just put the pole in the hole.
While the KC-10's primary mission is mid-air refueling, it can also carry warfighters and equipment on overseas deployments, as well as litter and ambulatory patients using patient support pallets during aeromedical evacuations.
I joined so that I would be able to say that I made a difference in the world. And that was always my thing. When I was 16 years old, I made the decision that I wanted to come in. I enlisted when I was 17, and I've been in ever since. Can't get away from it. I love airplanes, and I love being able to say that I helped somebody out. Whether we're just out here training or we're actually doing real-world things, I mean, every day makes a difference.
Now, I've flown in a few KC-10 missions after that, but that first one still scared the heck out of me. After the break, stay tuned where we're going to show you another one of Travis's mega aircraft. After Hurricane Maria desolated the island of Puerto Rico, Travis's strategic airlifters, the C-5 and C-17, were tasked with bringing humanitarian aid to the island. I was able to embed with the 22nd Airlift Squadron, where, among other things, we brought 4 HH-60 Pavehawk helicopters. It's been 3 months since Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico, causing one of the most devastating humanitarian crises in the territory's history. Thousands remain homeless and without access to utilities and services, prompting Senator Bernie Sanders to unveil a $146 billion recovery package, saying it is absolutely without any sense at all to rebuild Puerto Rico's antiquated, centralized, and inefficient electric grid that was dependent on expensive and dirty imported fossil fuels.
You're not up to date on SIFs, read the last two. What's up, dude? This will be a really short brief, and it's going to be a long day. So with that being said, as you guys get tired, work it out with each other. We're taking 6 pallets out of here, 27 passengers, and I anticipate getting a little bit more at Riverside. That's it. Let's do bus in 5 minutes.
The reports coming out of Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria's devastating juggernaut across the island were grim.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed.
People were left without food, water, and electricity, and there was little hope of any kind of swift relief. Unlike Houston and Florida, the island is only accessible by plane or boat, which means if there was any chance of aid making it to people in time, it'd have to be flown in. And I had a good feeling the airmen and women at Travis Air Force Base would be called on to provide that airlift support. On September 22nd, I got the call I'd been waiting for. The mission was go, and we were wheels up in 19 hours.
I'm here on the flight line at Travis Air Force Base, and behind me is the C-5 Galaxy, one of our military's largest aircraft. Now, ABC-10 has been given access to embed with the 22nd Airlift Squadron. Now, we're going to be taking this C-5 to pick up members of FEMA and then on to San Juan, Puerto Rico, where Hurricane Maria has devastated the island.
The difference with a humanitarian is the fact that if you were to compare this to a combat mission, you have other military members who are trained to handle difficult situations, who need supplies. However, people like those in Puerto Rico aren't trained to deal with the difficult situation that they're in. So it's very time pressing that we get them the aid that they need.
Part of the aid we were delivering came in the form of FEMA Task Force search and rescue teams, made up of members of Los Angeles, Riverside, and Sacramento area fire departments. While most Americans on the island were in need of utilities and supplies, early on there were still many trapped and in need of medical attention.
The big thing is a sense of urgency, since we're taking search and rescue equipment, and so obviously if people need to be rescued, we need to find them as soon as possible.
So we just landed at March Air Reserve Base in Riverside, near Riverside, California. We're going to make a quick stop here and then be heading on to San Juan, Puerto Rico once we get loaded up.
For the C-5 crew I was embedded with, this was the first humanitarian mission they'd been a part of, a departure from their normal operations in the Pacific and the Middle East.
So normally we do channel runs and contingency runs. The channels deal with regularly scheduled cargo, think household goods when people move back and forth from overseas. Our contingency runs deal with a lot of things, exercises, combat operations overseas. So suffice to say, this is different cargo than I've ever carried before.
All told, the 22nd Airlift Squadron packed their megajet with more than 100,000 pounds of gear, including pickup trucks, boats, ATVs, fuel and supplies, as well as 6 dogs and 81 FEMA task force members.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Just touched down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Behind me, the C-5 is unloading the cargo that we brought. Over here over my shoulder, you can see Task Force 2, 6, and 7 are here on the ground. They are going to be on the front lines going into these neighborhoods to help the people and the citizens here mitigate this disaster. It's already pretty clear from just from the flight line here at the airport. You can see over my shoulder we have trees down, buildings destroyed. So we're going to get this cargo unloaded and hopefully get it as quick as possible to the people of Puerto Rico.
For us, it'll be definitely humanitarian side. We could be anywhere from issuing out food, water, helping out, assisting people in convalescent care facilities, rescuing people in flooded areas if it's still there. We don't know how long we're going to be here. We know initially we could be here up to 14 days. That's really what it means for us, is that we're helping.
Much like the search and rescue teams they were delivering, the C-5 crew had to leave their families behind at a moment's notice. And with the situation in Puerto Rico becoming more dire, it was unlikely they'd be heading right back to California. Once the C-5 was unloaded, and the crew was preparing for the flight back to Travis, orders came through to divert to Joint Base Charleston, South Carolina. They were sending us on another mission.
Stay tuned. After the break, we'll show you what this plane is really capable of.
testing fuel.
After staging more than 24 hours in South Carolina, the Travis C-5 crew I was embedded with received orders to fly to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where they'd be picking up 4 Black Hawk helicopters to return to Puerto Rico with. Meanwhile, reports continued to pour out of the U.S. territory that not enough was being done to help those affected by Hurricane Maria.
Military operations are bringing tons of equipment and supplies to the island, but residents in this town tell me they're still waiting for help.
It seems to be the narrative still that the military's not doing enough. I mean, what's your response to that?
I think it's easy to rise above that, to dismiss some of that, those criticisms, because they know that they're engaged.
The aid was making it to the island. I'd flown thousands of miles with it and watched as it was delivered. But whether the aid was leaving the sea and airports and reaching those Americans who really needed it was something else entirely. Despite the political back and forth, the C-5 crew I was with remained focused on their missions.
Behind me, we are loading the last of the HH-60 Blackhawks that are being given to us to transport down to Puerto Rico by the 101st Airborne Division of the United States Army. Now we have 4 of these Blackhawks on the C-5 in the C-5 cargo hold right now. We're going to be taking them down tomorrow morning, where they're going to be assisting in relief efforts after Hurricane Maria desolated the island.
It's an honor to be able to help somebody out, that sense of purpose that somebody needs you and you're able to deliver what they need.
Our 22088, just be advised there is going to be a heavy C-5 passing over top of you at 4,000 feet. Is he also St. Thomas 88? Negative, he's going to Sable, sir.
On September 27th, a week after Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico, our C-5 touched down in Ceiba, a small city on the northeast side of the island, carrying 4 helicopters and soldiers from the Army's 101st Airborne Division we'd picked up at Fort Campbell. Another C-5 carrying 4 additional medevac helicopters landed in Ceiba shortly after us. Soldiers from the 101st and the airmen I was flying with worked as quickly as possible to unload the helos and prepare them to head out on missions of their own.
Nice and slow!
On September 29th, the Blackhawks took off from Ceiba on their first relief operation across the island.
My airmen are absolutely incredible. They do heroic things for our nation every day. They don't ask for recognition. They just want to serve.
After 5 days away from their families, delivering hundreds of thousands of pounds of aid and supplies to the people of Puerto Rico, the airmen of the 22nd Airlift Squadron were heading home.
I know you're on the roll, but mighty Cessna says thank you, Team Air Force. Go.
While we were able to get aid to the island, people in Puerto Rico are still suffering. And the story doesn't end here, and we're going to continue to follow it. Coming up after the break, we'll show you how to get inside access to Travis. Okay, so maybe not everybody gets to stand on top of the air control tower here at Travis Air Force Base and look over the flight line. Here we have KC-10s, C-5s in the distance, and C-17s. But each year, the base opens its gates and allows families and friends to come and check out these machines close up.
So we're up about 4,000 feet, the U.S. Army Golden Knights, going about 120 miles per hour. These guys are just slipping out the side door.
When Travis Air Force Base put out the word that they'd be offering seats on the Army's Fokker F-27 to tag along with the Golden Knights on their jump at the Wings Over Solana air show, the answer seemed like a no-brainer. Hell yes. Surprisingly though, ABC 10 photographer Rob Asher and I were the only TV crew to show up. You can't pass these opportunities up.
especially when this is the first air show Solano County's put on since a deadly accident back in 2014. So in 2014, there was a big accident out here, and a stunt pilot, 77-year-old stunt pilot, crashed. That was the Thunder over Solano air show. 3 years later, the hiatus has been lifted, and the air show's back on. Serving as recruiting ambassadors for the Army, members of the Golden Knights have been putting on aerial demonstrations for nearly 60 years, performing more than 17,000 shows in 48 countries and all 50 states.
So I'm here today with Sergeant First Class Stephen Green of the United States Army, and Sergeant, that was a hell of a ride.
It was fun.
How many times have you jumped out of an airplane?
This would be my 720th free fall parachute jump.
That's 720 more times than I have.
And that's a low number on our team.
The Golden Knights are on the road an average of 240 days a year. But while many people see them as performers, Sergeant Green tells me that's not their main mission.
We take our aircraft and our parachutes down to the audience where we actually talk to the civilian populace and tell them about the opportunities we have available in the Army, because we have a wide range of MWSs.
So we just landed back at Travis Air Force Base after flying with the United States Army's Golden Knights. Everyone got on the plane successfully, and we landed on the ground successfully.
And you can see the KC-10, C-5, and C-17 here at Travis Air Force Base. Over the past half hour, we brought you an inside look at these aircraft. But my story's not done yet. Next month, I'm heading off to Afghanistan, where I'll be giving you an inside look at what winning looks like there. This has been Michael Anthony Adams for ABC 10. Thanks for joining us.